Always My Soulmate by Watermelon's Melon Felon. Chapter 10. Lost in Translation. Victor stared down at the pretty decoration on his inner wrist. It was small and spanned no more than an inch of space. He didn't know how it was a name, and the strokes were far too close together for him to see. Still, it was supposed to mean that he had a soulmate. His grandfather had once told him that he was born without a soul mark, that for 4 years he and Victor's parents thought Victor wouldn't have a soulmate. They realized their error when the mark appeared one day. They even marked it down, just to be sure. November 29th was the day Victor's soul mark appeared. Therefore, if he wanted to know who his soulmate was, he should keep an eye out for anyone 4 years younger than him, with a birthday on the 29th of November. That was the best he could hope for, because no one could translate his soul mark. Still, Victor couldn't stop from smiling at the mark and tracing it every now and then, to find some kind of strength in it. At least it was pretty. Yuri smiled down at the little decoration on his skin. According to his parents, he'd been born with it, meaning his soulmate was already alive. Which was pretty cool in his opinion. He had no idea what it said, nor even how to go about getting a proper translation, but for the time being, just seeing it was enough. "Your soulmate is a foreigner!" Yuko proclaimed one day when they were 8. Her eyes were alight with inner fire and excitement, making Yuri shrink away just a bit. "It'll be a shocking whirlwind romance! You won't know your soulmates immediately, but that's okay! He'll come in and sweep you off your feet and carry you away into the sunset!" Yuri sighed and simply let her envision whatever her mind was coming up with. He knew arguing wasn't going to work out. Nishigori scuffed and started to stretch, reminding Yuri to do the same. April 28th, 2006 was one of the best days in Yuri's life. Google Translate was available to the world, and the day they came out with a written keyboard was the day that Yuri very painstakingly drew the characters on his wrist into the tablet. He got an answer. Yuri promptly threw his tablet across the room and buried his face in his pillow in order to scream! The mark on his wrist translated to Victor Nikiforov! As in Victor Nikiforov, the figure skater, the man that Yuri admired most in the world, the person he'd been crushing on for 6 years! It wasn't fair! Yuri had seen enough scandals of people trying to claim that they were the man's soulmate, and Victor would turn them all away. If Yuri's assumptions were correct, then his name would be written on the man's wrist, but in kanji! Therefore, in order to get the man to recognize him as an equal, a real soulmate and not some fraud, he needed to up his training to get better and better so that maybe Victor Nikiforov would see his official name and make the connection on his own. With his goal in mind, Yuri gave himself a firm nod. He needed to train a lot more. He needed to be great. Victor sipped his water lightly as Yakov went on and on about something trying. "Apparently the Japanese have a new threat." Victor nearly scoffed at that. Just because there were other good figure skaters out there didn't mean they were threats. They were competition. And if the competition was good, why should Victor be bitter over it? Yakov turned the laptop around so that Victor could gaze at whatever video he was staring at. The boy was younger than Victor, shorter and thinner, but he was very expressive. And something that intrigued him the most were his step sequences. "Who is his coach?" Victor asked, leaning forward with interest. Victor grunted. "He's gone through 3 and currently doesn't have one. According to the JSF, he choreographs his own programs though, which is why he's popular in Asia right now. He's doing things differently." The pure disgust in the man's voice made Victor roll his eyes again. However, Victor himself was busy staring at the strange young man whose feet worked like lightning on the ice. Clicking on the side window, he slowed the performance down halfway and began from the beginning, watching closely. The boy was certainly daring, that was for certain. He leaned down just a bit and leapt, performing a triple axel perfectly, his landing just as good as the takeoff, and he immediately flowed into a lovely spin, displaying how limber he truly was. Victor smiled. The commentary called the boy Katsuki Yuri. "I like him," the Russian decided with a grin. And he felt fired up now! Felt that he could slay any training today. The video progressed, showing Yuri accepting his gold medal and smiling shyly for the cameras. several times national champion for Japan. Perhaps they'd meet on the ice one day. Victor would look forward to it. Victor found himself following Katsuki Yuri's performances after that, wanting to see what else the boy could come up with on his own. And then, one night, Victor was given a shock when he was informed that Katsuki Yuri would be performing in the same Grand Prix final as he was, representing Japan. "You'll crash it, Victor," Yakov had told him. Once again, he was ignored because Victor was excited. He was finally going to see the other man perform live. He knew how to train even harder than before. Yuri took deep breaths, very deep and calming breaths. He was doing this for a reason. He was breaking boundaries for a reason. He was taking those extra steps beyond his comfort zone in order to meet his soulmate on equal footing. This was what he'd wanted to do, and while the flashing lights and paparazzi were annoying, he could handle them. So long as he remained pretty boring aside from the skating, then he didn't have to worry all too much. And he had an incredible support base back at home. Minako-sensei, his former ballet instructor, was the most supportive. She flew out to anywhere he was in competition, got the best seat she could, and would cheer herself hoarse. Yuko's dream of Yuri's soulmate coming to Japan suddenly and sweeping him off his feet was no longer possible. Because Yuri didn't want to be swept away. He wanted to be acknowledged as an equal, not some damsel in need of a hero. And this was the best way to do it. Victor Nikiforov would look at Katsuki Yuri as legitimate competition before Yuri would even dare to reveal their joint status. He would have nothing else. Victor was beaming. It had been years since a victory felt this good, and his smile wasn't the little passive one that he usually gave to the press. This was actually filled with joy. Honestly, it was the best competition he'd been in such a long time, and he wanted to do it again. All thanks to the man standing to his right. Victor had won the Sochi Grand Prix final, though it wasn't without struggle, because Katsuki Yuri had scored only 0.59 points below him. Yuri was holding up his silver medal, smiling calmly. The man even snatched a stuffed poodle out of the air and grinned a little wider as he tucked it under his arm. When the applause died down, Victor turned to the other man and beamed as brightly as he could. "It's been a pleasure," he said in English, knowing the other was just as fluent. Yuri accepted his offered hand and smiled in return. Cameras flashed insistently, and the two looked around, realizing that they weren't exactly in the best place to talk. "Shall we?" Victor asked, sweeping his arm in a great arc. Yuri rolled his eyes and took out first, allowing Victor to admire him from behind. And there was much to admire. At the press conference, Victor found himself seated to Yuri's left and grinned again. Yes, it was the usual, but he liked it anyway. He'd never really admired a fellow skater enough to be this excited to be near them. Victor's eyes trailed to the monitor that was focusing on Yuri's face. Beside it, listed his name. The name Victor had come to learn, and then the properly written name in respect to his home country. A frown appeared suddenly, and Victor peered closer to the screen, the characters familiar. Glancing down at his left wrist, he moved his wristlet aside and compared the characters. It couldn't be. He paused to think about what he knew about Katsuki Yuri. 23 years of age, born November 29th in 1993. Loved poodles and katsudon, 4-time national champion. Head swiveling to look at Yuri, Victor did something completely unethical. He grabbed another man's hand while he was in the middle of answering a question. Yuri stopped speaking and turned to look at him, but Victor's eyes were trained on the small font on Yuri's inner wrist. He knew those words. He knew them well. They spelled out his name in Russian. And Victor's excitement had him committing one of the biggest faux pas of his career. He launched his entire form at the younger man and wrapped himself around him almost completely. Yakov would kill him, but that was okay. He just got the best gift ever! Yuri's flushed face was spread out for the entire world to see, as well as his and Victor's soul marks. His plan had worked, though not to the effect that he had been hoping for. Still, it was nice to know that he was, at the very least, accepted by his soulmate, a man whom he greatly admired, and apparently who greatly admired him in return. Yuri gave him inspiration, again, according to Victor. The thought made his heart beat incredibly fast. "Yuri! Come on a date with me. Show me the sights. He had a feeling that he was going to be the responsible one in the relationship. The round seeing Russian was simply too excitable. He liked to have fun and be happy. But that was okay. Yuri thought it was cute.